So here we are at the start of round 3 with a very interesting situation here in the north of the map. As you can see, Team Tyson is totally surrounded, and if as a result of combat they have to retreat, they will have to capitulate because they have no hex to retreat into. So obviously that is a powerful situation for the Germans to be in. Similarly, down here at the other end of this group, if we were to move the 1st SS to this position here, the question then is, if we attack this 535 anti-aircraft battalion and they were forced to retreat, could they retreat to this hex here? So a very interesting note right down the back of the rules in hex ownership and fuzziness. It actually says, when retreating, the hex must be unoccupied by enemy units, and the retreating unit must have 25% more ZOC points on that hex than the enemy. So at first blush, you would have to think we've got about 153 combat points on that hex, and 382 recon points, if you see on the second line. So I would go so far as to say that 535 anti-aircraft unit is, for all intents and purposes, surrounded. But can he then retreat into this hex here? Now we have 22 here, 63 there, 68, plus another 48 there. So I would say, compared to the American units, we're going to have more zone of control points over that hex than the Americans do if this guy can retreat. So the big question is, can this guy retreat to here? We don't think he can retreat to there. So let's attack him, and we might just start off with I don't want to blast him out of the water sort of thing. I just want to get him to the point where he's not totally defeated by the attack, but at the end, because he can't retreat, he capitulates. So it's a bit of a balancing act, but we'll see how we go. So I'll get this dug. Okay, so the odds are 5 to 1 there, 19 to 1. So no doubt we're going to win this particular battle. For attacking from 2 hexes. Let's see. Okay, we'll attack. Okay, I'll just autoplay it. Oh, can you believe it? It looks like he actually wasn't defeated in there. He's got 11 left. Okay. Oh, I didn't mean to press that either. Okay, so we'll try again. 6 to 1. Surely we can. Okay, let's go for the detail and see what happened to the 535th AA Battalion. First round, nothing much happened. Second round, 1 dead. Okay, this is the current round, and that's the previous. So then we had 3 retreating. Okay, more retreating, more retreating, more retreating, and at round 7 they had to capitulate because they could not retreat. So that capitulation was because they couldn't retreat to the that hex that was blank, because we had a higher zone of control points on that particular hex. So that's quite interesting, in that we can get a capitulation if we have more zone of control on the possible exit hex. Obviously this chap here is in big trouble, and let's whack some artillery on him and sort of try and make sure of the situation. So, oops, our recon points are only 164 on that hex, so that's interesting. Of course, he has all the attack and defense modifiers, etc. So that is interesting. Our hex stats on this hat. Oh, well, there we go. So, I don't know. So we go in there. So our best line of sight is 50. So our total attack points will be divided by 2 just for that factor alone. So what we better do, because he's got 41 points in here still. So let's see if we can get some artillery on him. Okay, so we'll go map. Okay, so who's on him? Let's put both 402s in there, so we can go select. Okay, let's go back. What's our number there? We don't know, so let's go attack. Right, so GI veterans out, that's going to be the question. Okay, I think we should have a look at this guy to attack him as well. 67 to 1, good grief. Right, so his readiness is really getting down there. Because he's below 50, I think he may get a panic retreat if we get the right roll. The artillery in this hex, I think I might as well throw that in. What was the other one in there? 2721 map. Okay, 8919. Yeah, we want to get him as well. Select, back, attack. Purpose of the demonstration, we like to not totally annihilate this guy, but to just get him to the point where he has to retreat, so we see if he capitulates. So we'll pick this guy here, I think. He'll do the initial attack 1 to 1. So he's the 27th. Okay, and the 12th, can we mix him up? 12 to 1. Right. So let's, we might as well put the other, oh well, 19 to 1. Okay, so I'll try, last time we tried 19 to 1, he survived, didn't he? And he was probably stronger. So 45, gosh, that seems too much, doesn't it? 29, I'm going to blast him off the map. Okay, we'll just go with attack. Let's hope we get a result we want. Oh, one guy left, you've got to be joking. So if we go down to round 9, oh, now this is saying, oh, wrong one. Team Tyson. So Team Tyson gave up. He capitulated. He tried to withdraw. And there's one guy with a bazooka left. My goodness. Just when you're trying to demonstrate something. But that did show the capitulation for the other guy, so that's a good thing. So let's just finish him off with... the engineers can do the coup de grace, I suppose. 4-1. Surely we can get him with 4-1. Okay. Oh, now check the stacking out points here. Notice our stack points here are 278 versus 100. Now that's because it includes the attacking points from the previous attack. So we should cancel that. We can still get this guy in for an attack. We can still bring him in. 1-1. 5-1. So now it's 297, 200. So even if we can get a third unit in, which we can't, we're just going to have a stacking penalty for having too many in this attack. And this is what it means by an overstack for the attacker. I don't believe it. There's still 2 left. Oh, I hit the wrong button. I meant to hit the details. So would you believe it? We didn't actually take out that hex. And there must be... Oh, this is saying there's all these guys still left in there. So there you go. Well, anyway, that was my demonstration of capitulation and a little bit of information there on overstacking in the attack. So I don't think I have anything else. 3%. Now, if I was to attack there, stack points 102 for 100. We might as well attack. Readiness down to 10, so he's definitely cooked, but he's going to cause a bit of aggravation for us. But there you go, a bit of a demonstration there on capitulation and overstacking. But while we're here, we might as well throw some artillery in on this guy, so this guy can attack. Who else can we put in? That might be interesting. Let's go for broke a bit. We'll put some artillery type units. Okay, this guy here. 3-1 is getting a bit better. 9-1. Okay. Might as well, we'll totally blast him. Okay. A bit of an overstack penalty there. Right, so this guy is still quite strong. So we'll put in a huge attack here just to see if we can get an example of what I've been talking about. Okay. Three to 1, gee. 8-1. 9-1. I wonder if I took him out if you get more. No. 8-1. So where did I lose those points? 8-1. 9-1 without him. So there you go. Okay, we'll give that a go. Let's go all in. Right, so let's have a look at the detail. So what happened to our mates in the 394th Infantry and Team Forward? So we'll check the 394th Infantry first. So we go through and you see the casualties mounting up there. Round 5 is looking pretty grim for him. Round 6. Okay, round 7 and round 8. And then he capitulated. So the capitulation comes in because he can't retreat. So for Team Forward, we'll see, did he capitulate on the last turn as well? Okay, so it got down to the last turn and both units got a retreat command, but they couldn't retreat because I had him totally, no, I didn't have him totally surrounded, but they couldn't retreat into that hex because we had a higher zone of control on the hex, which was that one there. So something very interesting that I just learnt. I learnt this afternoon and was able to show you with this little experiment in turn 3. So I hope you found that interesting. By the end of turn 3, Camp Group Piper had blocked the roads to the west of Butkenbach, which was being defended, and Bullingen was safely in our hands. I was thinking that the Bullingen supply depot could be in our hands for quite a while, so it might be worth building it up and using it for our own supply purposes. In the south of the map, we are aggressively advancing towards St. Vith, and with our central area being much slower than our two extremes, you can see we have a possible pincer shape here, so that may be something to consider going forward, depending on how many units we think we would capture to the east in this Kessel we're about to put together. So that's something to consider going forward, or do we just keep pushing west? So that'll be the decision in the coming turns. So excess losses at this stage are 647 and Allies 2462, so about 4 to 1, so we're not going too bad in that sort of category. So we enter the night turn. The first thing you will notice are these orange trucks on the screen. This is an enemy presence marker and is discussed on page 47 of the manual. Unsurprisingly, at night will have a grave impact on your recon and best loss points, and this is also affected by hide points. So combat at night is going to be quite problematic and full of ambushes if you try it, I think. The night turn penalty is not so bad if you have experienced units, but for the greater majority of the German units, it's just not really possible with that huge penalty. So in the AI's turn, it did get a little bit busy, launched a number of attacks, intercept fires as you would expect. Interesting here, it surrounded my unit which I just placed across the river to hold the bridge, so I could be in trouble in a few little areas around the map, but that's all part of the price to pay for the rapid advance towards St. Vith there in the north of the map as displayed. So another attack here. We stood firm. Movement, of course. The supply overlay outlines that pincer type movement I mentioned earlier, with the possibility of making a Kessel by charging south. I don't think we'll go that way, but it's certainly tempting if there were a lot of units there in between those pincers. You can see in the centre of the map where some of the American movement with the orange truck has isolated the engineer unit, but I don't imagine there's a unit there. So what we're looking for is to see, have the Americans abandoned Butgenbach? An ambush, so obviously not. So do we use our units to do a night attack, or do we do some indirect fire, or are we better off just staying quiet during this time? I think the overall theory is to take advantages where you can, which is pretty obvious, but to ensure that our supply lines are open. So all these units that our supply highlight says we don't particularly own, like Hunningen, we need to sort of get a unit into those hexes or attack whatever's in there. Right, so just as we sort of suspected, there would be an American unit in there. So this is an obvious one that's worth fighting for, an important supply junction. Admittedly, we have the major road just to the north of it clear, but I think this one is worth going through the expense of a night engagement to. So there's somebody in Hunningen as well. So you can see there the alive 11714, which shows it's a weak unit, so it's worth following up with another attack, because obviously we'll win that. It's just the inconvenience of having to attack at night and wear down those units. Oh, we didn't take him with that attack. Oh, yes, we did. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. So this one down here, 4-1. Okay, so he still has unit at the front, so still there. Twelve to 1, okay. And there we go. Because it has the German flag in Honsfeld, I didn't think we had to actually physically go there, so I might as well move Sandig back towards the action. Once again, you look at the alive column to see what's left over, which will give you an idea of the strength of the unit. In fact, moving this unit just to this location here would mean we would have control of the other hex to get supply to our unit because of that zone of control issue we mentioned earlier. So that unit with the question mark is definitely, for all intents and purposes, surrounded or out of supply. And notice how the hex now is green, which says, you know, we have domination over that hex with the zone of control points. See, these guys here are clearly out of supply, so I'll be interested to see how their supply rates drop in the subsequent turns. I'm not going to push the issue there, I'll just wait till the morning to resume our attacks. Now, you wouldn't think the AI would abandon St. Vith, given this was a pretty fierce battle in actuality. Ambush. Wow, we're pretty weak now after that failed attack. Player, grief team. Looking at maybe locating these hexes which supply St. Vith, but unfortunately I've only got one grief team to play, which means there's multiple routes to St. Vith from the American side. So I'll take the supply fuel and replacements. So that's about it. So 737 versus 2643. So those ambushes certainly cost us some people. So checking the history again, to see what the AI has been up to. So a failed attack in the north. Another failed attack. And a attacker was victorious. Well, that's one of our first setbacks. So that's turn 3 and 4 done. So I'll see you next time with turn 5. Cheers.